Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But it comes at a price. Samantha Horwitz and John Salerno work with police departments across the country to bring valuable recovery, insight resources, and workshops. A Badge of Honor TV brings those professionals to you so we can come together and revitalize communities through a better understanding of what's at stake and what's required for repair. So take a load off and turn up your TV. It's about to get real.
Hey, welcome to a Badge of Honor podcast, Badge of Honor TV. Sorry, Freudian slip. Powered by the OBBM network. You know, welcome, Sam. Welcome to all our listeners out there, and thank you for tuning in to a Badge of Honor every Monday for Mental Health Monday. You know, it has been a good week. It's going to get cold, though. So, Sam, how you doing out in far North Neverreach over there?
Well, you know, I don't have my some weeks, people may notice going back in the shows, I have like a little fireplace. It doesn't put off any heat, but it's like 'tis the season, right? To stay warm. And I feel like it's there. It's not there. It's there. It's not there. Well, tomorrow it might be there permanently for about a week. You know, we are well, I'll say we're going to hit some dangerous weather coming.
Yeah,
that
Tyra went out and bought firewood today.
Yeah, we are not equipped really for here in Texas, from our homes to our public safety, and you know, with our fire trucks and the way that we fight fires or any other call that requires fire service to respond. It's going to get interesting.
It's a different way for our first responders, especially in this cold weather. And we'll get into that when we hear from our guests coming in. But what about this weekend, man? I know you were, I don't know if you're a NASCAR fan or not, but, you know, Donald Trump, our president, went and he rode the track. He did the pace car with his granddaughter. He was at the Super Bowl. You know, I think the country's turning around. I think he's going to be great for our first responders because they see him supporting NASCAR. They see him supporting football players and athletes. He is bringing America back. He is going to shine for our first responders and get them mentally healthy as well. I think he's going to make a priority on that.
Well, you also see him thanking our first responders. And if you watched additional video yesterday that getting off of Marine One, and I think he might have actually passed a challenge coin to one of the Marines. Just
Wow.
the way that he shook his hand, I think that's what it looked like to me, at least. But the salute, shaking of the hands, yeah, it's class also. And so, you know, we know from some of the things and the policies that he's putting forward that not only our veterans will be taken care of, but our military will as well, families, as well as our first responders. And, you know, tonight is, well, we've got a special treat. We've got a couple coming on the show that is dedicated to caring for our first responders in a very, I'll say, unique way. Because it only happens once a year, where in person, but they can care for folks year round with the fundraising that they do. But when we started talking about the fire response and how things could get interesting, boy, before the show, I connected with Joe a lot on the phone, and we had some amazing conversations about, you know, not only his background, but where he came from, what he battled. And so without further ado, we're going to bring Joe and Liz Bartholomew on to a Badge of Honor TV. Welcome to the show, Joe and Liz.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Liz.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. And then speaking of cold, they're joining us from like Wisconsin, where they're doing ice fishing already. So Joe sent me some pictures yesterday of beautiful birds, but the snow was like piled up on the trash can. I was like,
"Yeah, I'm getting cold just hearing it."
Exactly. And you're in a t-shirt too. What's wrong with you, partner?
I'm in the house. I'm in the house.
I know. But in all seriousness, Joe and Liz, again, welcome to Badge of Honor TV. Please, for everybody watching and listening, Joe, we'll start with you. Tell us about your background.
Okay. I started in the fire service at 19 as a paid on-call firefighter in Batavia, Illinois. Then at 1986, I went full-time with Aurora, Illinois. And I did that for 24 more years. And I was a paramedic, scuba diver, arson investigator. And then I became the hazmat coordinator while on the hazmat team. And so I plus being a firefighter on an engine and a truck, plus working the ambulance. So I got to do a little bit of everything.
Wow.
And
that's some career. Yes.
It kept you busy. So, but the reality is what we talked about, and here's the thing that is important. I know that we talked about winter and stuff like that, being prepared. Little thing we used to teach new guys real quick was throw an extra pair of socks in your bag that you took on the vehicle with you, because when your feet got cold, you change your socks, throw extra pairs of gloves on, things like that. And, you know, coming back and you were frozen solid with ice. But comparing it to Houston, where they're 95 temperature, humidity, that's a whole different thing.
You know, you bring up a great point, Joe, on the environmental impacts that it has on our first responders between cold and hot, because a firefighter here in Texas battling a blaze in the middle of August could dehydrate you, deplete you of everything that you have. But same with winters in Wisconsin, hypothermia on the other end. Your body is being impacted not only mentally, but environmentally.
A real funny thing, real quick, that to add to this is I came up here and I taught a little bit at the one college, and I found out every either tender tanker or a fire engine up here has a ice auger on their rig. And I thought, you go ice fishing? He said, no, that's how we get water. They go to the lake and they throw a pump in after they drill the hole and pump it back to shore, and then they fill their vehicles and take it to the fire.
So you wouldn't be drafting.
Yeah, they draft with a portable pump. They drag that out with a sled, and then they drill a hole, stick a pipe down, and pump it back with a pump to shore.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so we just learned a whole new thing on a Badge of Honor TV tonight, depending on where you're tuning in from, about how you get water to the fire.
Yes.
So
I do got to reiterate one thing, though.
We don't have that.
I do got to reiterate one thing. Like Joe said, they draft from a lake, because the big controversy was in California why they couldn't take from the water. You can't put that salt water through the pumps of an engine. It will cause too much damage. So they're doing it from lakes that are not salt water. It's fresh water. So just to reiterate that, because I know everybody's probably going, then why couldn't California do that? Because the salt water will damage the pumps and freeze them up.
And there's a screen on them so we don't pump fish through it.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's a good thing. But you had some, you did 33 years in the fire service, and over those 33 years, I imagine you saw a lot and experienced a lot. Can you talk a little bit about, what happened towards the end when you decided to retire?
Yeah, I had about 20 years on the job, and we had a truck fire, went to it I was on engine 1, went to it and ended up being nothing. And right after we got there and found out it was nothing, they dispatched for a house fire. So we were about 8 blocks from it. It was in our territory. So they'd already put out the other vehicles going. So I got on the radio and said, we're going. And we were the first one there, pulled up, and it was a house that was 2 stories with heavy smoke coming out of it on the upper floor and the first floor. And we could see the orange glow in the basement windows as we went by it. We pulled past the house to give the truck the front of the house. And when we stretched the lines, getting ready to get in, we were going to go into the basement on the side door. And we were told to go in the back door. So we did a quick crawl in there, and fire was coming up through the baseboards and the refrigerator was tilting. So we backed out. They forced the door to going in from the side on the driveway. We the steps were all on fire. So we cooled those down, went down in the basement, and we were crawling in, knocking the fire down as we went, but it was all black smoke. And we got in about 30, 40 feet. And next thing you know, the smoke turned bright orange at face level. So the fire had come down on top of us. And I got on the radio to call for help, and no one answered us for another line. And I finally called emergency traffic, nothing. So I said, guys, we're going to bail out of here. So there's 3 of us down there. As the officer, I always made sure I was the last one out. So we got to the stairs. My first guy went up. My second guy, who was the nozzle man, went up. As I went up, I got hit with something, fell from the ceiling, threw me back into the basement. I got turned around and I crawled back into the fire, not knowing, hit a wall, crawled back around, crawled into what I thought was a stairs, but it was a closet. I got caught on coat hangers and everything, swam out of that, where you move your hands back and forth and get out of it, laid on the floor. And I didn't know where I was at. And I was calling Mayday, nothing happened. So I prayed to God that take care of my wife and family, because I knew I was dead.
Now panic's starting to set in, right?
Give
our listeners a little contents on what a basement fire, any fire actually, but a basement to be quite frank, shut your eyes. It's pitch black, so you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, you know, I think we've got to take a quick break. When we come back, let's take our viewers and our listeners through that. We'll be right back after these messages, everybody.
Forget Zoom, try Meetin. Meetin is a brand new video meeting service. And not only is Meetin simpler and easier to use and more powerful, Meetin also has the right values. Here at Meetin, we believe in freedom. We believe in privacy. We believe in America. And we are apolitical. Now, to get your free forever version of Meetin, just go to Meetin.com, spelled this way. And then where it says promo code, type in the word special. That's your promo code. Okay? So go to Meetin.com, type in the word special, and you'll get Meetin free forever. I'm Rick Raditz, and I look forward to serving you as a customer of Meetin.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, and our special guests, Joe and Liz, over from Wisconsin. Joe, you're a retired firefighter, 33 years. And Liz, we're going to get into your story right after Joe tells us about. My
heart is pounding.
Yeah, firefighters are sometimes they're held as heroes. They are but they're also the forgotten first responders sometimes when it comes to the dangers that really they are put in each and every day. When you think about it, you see the cameras of the TV cameras or the news cameras on the outside, they see the fires, but what's going on inside those flames is a whole nother story. And Joe, basement fire is one of the most dangerous things you can enter into. You were telling us you were hit and you were knocked back.
Yeah. A basement is like crawling into a fireplace chimney, because the stairs are the chimney where you get all this weird heat coming at you, and you got to go against that to go down. We got down in there and the smoke was all the way to the floor. I mean, I could hold a flashlight up to my face and I couldn't see the light until I put it against my mask.
Wow.
And we held our breath for 3 to hear where the crackling was above. It was everywhere above us. So it was fire all around us. So like I said before, I called emergency traffic, nothing. We started to head towards the stairs, followed the hose line to the stairs, got to where we went up, got my first guy up, second guy up. And then, like I said, I got hit with something, flipped over onto my back, rolled over on my stomach, and I was facing into the basement, didn't know it. And I crawled in looking for the stairs, hit a wall, crawled back out, and crawled back around feeling the wall. How we use a right hand, left hand feel. And I just started following the wall. Did that until I got to, after I laid down and prayed, I got up and said, I ain't going to do anything. But so people understand, we have what they call Scott Air Pack. It's regular air that you breathe that's pressurized at 4,500 PSI in a tank. We're breathing that. Well, the air in our tank was also getting heated up too, so it was hard to breathe. And we have at a quarter of a tank, the alarm goes off and tells you got to get out. Well, when I was crawling back in, my alarm went off. When I started crawling back and I hit the hose, but it was all jumbled up, so I couldn't find the end of it. And in a Scott Air Pack, you have 8 breaths left when it stops pumping air. So it went right, mask stuck to my face after 8 breaths. I couldn't find my way out. I laid down, and next thing I know, I'm being dragged across the driveway. Found out later that real quick, there was a problem with the RIT team. It wasn't available to get me. And I don't want to go into big details right now, but there was a RIT team that didn't come and get me. So 2 guys freelance found me buried under stuff. So
now a RIT team is a rescue intervention team.
Correct. Or a RIC, a rescue intervention crew. They use both terms, but those acronyms are the people that are just there to rescue a firefighter, not the public. And so the 2 guys that were able to get me out, when they went downstairs, I was buried, so they didn't hear my alarm going off.
Oh, wow.
So they found me, just happened to crawl into me, pulled me up the stairs. My mask is stuck to my face, so I closed my eyes, and that's the last thing I remembered. And when they bounced me on the driveway after they brought me out and pulled my mask off, all of a sudden I took a big breath of air. And dragged me to the ambulance after they stripped me out of my gear. And when I got to the ambulance, I looked at the 2 medics and I was bawling, crying. And I said, am I alive? I can't believe I'm alive. I didn't know I was alive. And so they grabbed me, hugged me and said, you're alive. They transported me to the hospital because they had to pull me out and a Mayday was called. And then they wanted me to take me to the hospital to be checked out. So I get taken to the hospital. Liz meets me at the hospital. She didn't even know what happened to me, really, other than the 2 cops that were there with second-degree burns on their hands from grabbing my fire coat.
Did you have any thermal burns?
No, I was completely protected. I felt hot, but my gear was caught in a flashover, and I survived a flashover.
Wow.
Yeah,
now, to give a little context, the degrees in a fire can reach upwards to 1,200 degrees.
Yeah, between 12 and
1,200 degrees.
Yeah, between 12 and 1,400 degrees, which carbon burns at 1,400. So yes, there was temperatures at the ceiling that high, but the fire was also down to the floor level by then. So you're looking at 800 plus degrees at the floor, and your oven only goes above 500.
Right. I was just about to make that correlation going, you ever stick your hand in your own home oven, it's 500 degrees broil.
Yeah.
And this is more than double the heat.
I cannot even imagine. And Liz, so somebody contacts you, you make it to the hospital before Joe even arrives. After he gets released and is able to, I'll call it decompress a little bit and finally tell you, what happened. Did you start seeing changes in Joe?
Actually, I did not know about the fire for a year. When I got to the hospital, they were taking him for a chest x-ray for smoke inhalation. And the 2 cops they were all in the same little cubicle. And they said, I couldn't do what your husband does. And Aurora's a town that's got like gang shootings and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, you're kidding, man. Cause you guys are out on the streets with the gangbangers and stuff. And he was in a fire and that's all they said. So we went home and Joe didn't say anything about it. But in that next year, things started happening and I didn't know anything about PTSD. He started kind of separating himself from us. He would get his plate of food and go eat in the bedroom in front of the TV or downstairs. He was kind of moody. He was depressed. He would snap at us, for no reason at all. And one day I asked him, I said, if you unload the dishwasher, I'll reload it. And he said, why are you yelling at me? And the kids, our kids were in college, and the one daughter was home, and she says, Dad, she's not yelling at you. She just asked you to help with that. And so these signs that I saw, I wasn't sure where they were coming from. And until we were out one day, I should say at the same time, my dad had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's and lived across the street. So we were dealing with caretaking with that. And his dad had kidney cancer and had to have a kidney removed. And we were driving from the suburbs into Chicago to take him to the VA hospital. So you're kind of distracted from what's going on in your own life. So one day we were in the car wash, and I was writing stuff on my grocery list, and the soap came over the windows, and his arms went straight out like 2x4s. And he had such a grip on the steering wheel. And I said, what's up with that? And he said, sorry, the dogs came under the table and they're like a Great Dane.
No worries. I have the same thing.
Me too.
So then he said, it goes back to that fire. And I was like, what fire? And only then did he tell me. It was a year later. And so I said to him, I said, I think you should go see the EAP counselor and let them talk to you and see what's going on. And they diagnosed him with a severe case of PTSD.
Wow. Thank you guys both for being so open with this story. I know looking at the viewer count, it's definitely impacting a lot of folks. We got to take our next break. And then when we come back, I want to talk about, Liz, the continued changes, Joe, you getting help, and how you started your organization. We'll be right back, everybody. Stay tuned.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam and our guests, Joe and Liz. I just got to plug in my computer. I forgot. I was getting the battery signal dead. We're back. Before we left, Joe, you were telling us about this horrific experience you had fighting a blaze and the post-traumatic stress that you endured afterwards. And Liz, you didn't realize, what year was this happened?
He was diagnosed in the fire was 2004. He was diagnosed in 2005.
Now, with that critical incident, and I know it's gotten a lot better since then, because back then we really didn't talk about it too much. There was no critical incident debriefing on when they pulled you out after the Mayday to ask how you were. Oh, Liz is already smiling. I guess they didn't.
She's like, nope.
No, there wasn't one. And basically, I'll just do it real quickly. In the critique, I was told by my chief that I was written off. They weren't going to send anybody for me.
Wow.
So in the part of the thing, as he told me, the guys had their critique afterwards, and the chief that was the battalion chief that was on duty that day came in, and one of the guys said, the chief right away said, sorry about that the other day. I didn't have my radio to the right frequency. So that's why they couldn't hear him asking for another team and hear him calling for man down. guys at the outside stations could hear him, and they were saying to the 911 center, somebody has to get in there. Somebody is stuck in there and he can't get out. And so he said, sorry, my radio wasn't to the right frequency, kind of matter of fact. And then when he was asked, when were you going to go in and get him? He said, we had written you off.
Oh my gosh. I
That
could not even imagine
what that does to you inside.
I might throw fists, just being honest. If somebody said that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know about you. I'm at a loss for words that this would be coming from a chief.
Joe, so I mean, the stress that you endured, not only physically and that mental stress from almost dying in that fire, now you have command stress and the thought of them just leaving you there because nobody heard you adds more things, which I could understand now. The yelling, those are triggers when you think about it. And when you can look back and go, when he yelled at you about the dishwasher, that's a trigger going, why don't you hear me? Why aren't you hearing me? So that brings that all back to nobody's listening to me on the radio. Your mind works in weird ways. And I'm glad you came out of it that way. But now do you see that as maybe a trigger point?
I do, yes. In fact, it just takes a word sometime. I was just real quick. The other day I was talking to a buddy of mine. We were talking about stuff and the word freelancing came up and I just started crying. And he was talking about how bad freelancing is in a fire service, about nobody following directions. And I said, if it wasn't for freelancing, I wouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
Freelancing saved your life.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, God bless them, and the fact that they were listening on the radio and knew you were there. Liz, all these changes you're experiencing with Joe and your children, and so you decided to do something about this because you knew that it wasn't just Joe that was going through stuff like this. If it was him, it had to be others. Fast forward a little bit, you create Responders Retreat, which is an organization that serves all of our first responders. When did you decide to do that?
Well, after he got diagnosed with PTSD, and then the next couple of years I spent trying to educate myself using a lot of the information from the National Center for PTSD in Washington. And then things were making sense to me and such. When he went and told them he had been diagnosed with PTSD, they told him he had 6 months to get over it. He could retire or be fired. And so between that statement and the statement that they weren't going to go in to get him, my mama bear came out, and he was in a place where, first of all, we had to get a lawyer. The lawyer said, don't say anything to anybody. People gossip. People pretend to be your friends. They're looking for information. Don't say anything to anybody. So he didn't react to stuff. And he was so kind of depressed and shut down at times. Then it was as if I took my arm and pushed him back and say, bring it to me. And I just had this thing in me that said, how can people treat people this way? This is supposed to be a group of a family. If he had died in that fire, he would have had this big funeral and all the trucks coming and all this other stuff, but he didn't die. So treat him bad. So when they told him he couldn't, he was going to be fired, that's when we got the lawyer. Well, then they put him on light duty, and then he was being treated because they couldn't fire him. They were trying to treat him as badly as possible to get him to quit. And then we were seeing people that had been his friend for years kind of backing off of him because they didn't want to be connected with him because it was not good in the administration's eyes and stuff. And of course, when anybody says anything about you, somebody comes back to you to say, just so you know, this guy isn't really your friend. This is what he's saying. So we heard a lot of what went on. So this was breaking my heart that this was happening to him. And he was a good firefighter. And it was just something that happened and it should have been taken care of better. And at the time it wasn't. So I started going to fire stations locally, and I was telling them about what happened to him. And I was trying to say, if this happens to you, go get counseling. You don't have to do it locally. If you want to go 3 counties over and you want to get some counseling, go over there. But please, this is about you and your quality of life. And I don't want you to have to struggle alone and such like this. So every place I went, guys came up to me afterwards and said, I've had that call, or I've had those feelings. And I said, have you gotten any counseling? They said, no. You see what happened to Joe? They treated him as badly as possible. He was
scared.
Yep. He got number 1. He was number 1 on the captain's list. And they said, well, we don't think you can ever do that job. So they skipped him there. And so that kind of led me to, I knew that he had to just go through counseling, that there was nothing I could do to, in my mind, fix him, to help him. I could be supportive, but I couldn't help him through this. And I was seeing his reaction within the house with me and the kids. At one point, he told me he didn't think he loved me like a man should love his wife anymore. And that kind of took me back. And then later, not that same day, but this was later down the road, he said, I don't even remember saying that to you. And he felt so bad. So I was just trying to think, what can I do to make this better for somebody? And so when he finally got through his legal stuff and we moved up here, and we're way north in Wisconsin, we're about half an hour from the UP border. And I saw a great deal difference in him, in his demeanor, how he was handling things. He enjoyed watching the lake and the eagles flying over and such. And I said to him, it's too bad we can't bottle this up and give it to somebody else, and to other firefighters. And then I thought, why not other first responders? Because when I met him, I was a records clerk for the PD. And so I had things in my mind that I saw from previous reports. And every once in a while, one of those will pop up and go away. But so I'm thinking this is day by day by day, all these people are seeing this. So I decided to try and do something for everybody from dispatch all the way through to the ER nurses, because they all respond on the same calls and their minds go through this thing. So I decided to create a setting where people could come and open a conversation without feeling judged, surrounded by people that have been through this. And so his cousin called me and he said, tell me what you're doing. And I was explaining it to him. And he said, do you know how close you are to an AA meeting? He said, it's people coming together anonymously to give and get support through life's experiences. And in your case, through response calls.
That is amazing.
That's a good way to put it. Good way to put it.
That is a great way to put it. We got to take our next break. When we come back, we'll dive in deeper to Responders Retreat. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Leftovers again? It's time for something we haven't had in a long time. It's time for something right. It's time to make the right choice. OBBM Network TV is always the right choice. Choose right.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam. Our special guests, Joe and Liz, with Response Retreat.
Responders Retreat, yep.
Responders Retreat. You know, before we left on the last break, Joe, you told us about your struggles with post-traumatic stress and what caused that. Then what is the hidden thing of the upper management or chiefs discarding that and weighing down even harder. And so many people fight this battle alone, scared, because you're cut from a cloth of God, that this is your path to be a firefighter. And when you're treated like that, it really just digs the knife deeper into the wound. Thank God you have a supported wife like Liz, who stood by you and did the research for post-traumatic stress, because a lot of people may not do that. A lot of people may just give up, throw their hands up when you said you didn't love her. You know, that wasn't you saying it, but she didn't know that at the time. And it's just a normal isolation reaction, you know? So Liz, God bless you for standing by his side. You got a good man there. And you really turn this around to something bigger, better, and greater for all of our first responders out there.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, so tell us more what Responders Retreat. You kind of got into it. So you provide a place where first responders can come and anonymously share amongst themselves. Nothing, you know, people come from all walks of life and from everywhere, but the whole key is they're out of their fire station, they're out of their police station, and they're sharing with people that get it.
So when I started to do this and started to put all these people together, we decided to include some of the peer support. We have no intention of being a treatment facility. There are treatment facilities out there. That's not my expertise. That's not my area. I'm speaking as a spouse, having watched him go through this and done my research on some of the other things that can help. So in 2017 and 2018, I put my paperwork in to get a nonprofit status, and have spent the first couple of years doing fundraising and trying to get the word out. And we naively thought that if we asked for across the country $1 a badge, I know sometimes the guys have things and they carry a boot or whatever, and they say, put some money in. And we thought $1 a badge, we could have the money to have our own place, so we could have it year round whenever anybody needed to come up and get away. And obviously that didn't happen. So, and that's fine. But we have right now, for the last couple of years, we've been using a local church camp that does stuff in the summer with kids, Lutheran church camp, kids and families. And so in the fall, it's not being utilized for those purposes. So it is on a lake. We have the cabins. We have down between the cabins, there's a campfire area. The people come in on Monday and afternoon. We have a cookout welcome get together that night. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning, we offer some sort of informational thing. We have a guy coming in and he talks about human stress response. We have a guy coming in and he talks about resiliency. We have one of the guys' wives and myself talk about the spouse's perspective, because sometimes people don't realize it happened to the whole family, not just him. And so we want if the wives want to come and sit in and talk in that or ask questions or vent, we welcome that. This year we're adding in a local police department has asked to collaborate with us, and they're bringing in Kent Williams to do breach point for 2 of the days. And they have another a former cop therapist that he's coming in doing presentation, and they're waiting on a response from one more person. Mm-hmm. Our part with Responders Retreat, we want to give information, offer recreation, and conversation. So we do the stuff in the morning. The afternoon is recreation times. We have the camp has the swim area. They can go on a pontoon cruise. They have rowboats, canoes, kayaks, supboards. They can go fishing with a fishing guide. There's 3 miles of trails through the woods. They have frisbee golf, cornhole setup. Bond Falls is really pretty, and that's like an hour away. We have a yoga breathing thing one of the afternoons, Tai Chi demonstration this time, another one, and then a meditation thing, because those are all things that are proven with the first responders to help with de-stress. Our basic goal is for them to be able to come in with other people that are going through the same stress and open a conversation and take in some of this other things that maybe we can inspire them to go home and find things that bring them joy, and to go out. They've been changing phone numbers and emails and stuff. They call each other and sometimes say, I'm having a bad day. Can we just talk? and they do that. And it is just a place to open up a conversation. We would always advocate for or encourage to see a counselor. But if they're not going to do that, I don't want them struggling by themselves and trying to get through this and not feel like they have anybody.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
the environment huge.
Yes.
Changing the environment from what they're normally in. I mean, Sam, we know with Heroes on the Water,
Yep.
you know, just that 1 day or 2 days of just breathing the fresh air and being out.
Being with the horses, the equine. Yeah, the equine. To be able to be out of the station or, the police station, firehouse, and in nature, we know that research has already proven when you connect with nature, you're connecting with your higher power, a bigger mission, whatever you want to call it. And this just sounds phenomenal. For those of you listening on your favorite podcast app, I put up on the screen the way that you can find out more, not only about Joe and Liz, but about the retreat. It's firstrespondersretreat.org is the website. Again, firstrespondersretreat.org. And Liz, what are the dates in September?
So the September date, we always try to do the last week in September. The color changes up here. It's beautiful. The weather is nice. So it is September 22nd through 26th.
Okay.
And
how many spaces do you have?
This year we're doing a little bit different because we have always utilized the cabins. So that holds around 26 people. Some of those rooms, because they're utilized for families during the summertime. Some of them have like a bunk bed. So, and there also is a dorm setup up there. So, but as far as the cabins, we have 26 spaces. This year we've said, people have asked and said, can I bring my wife? In the past, we've always wanted to deal with the first responder who's struggling first, but if they feel better with their spouse there, that's fine. This year there is not a cost for them to come up. It's the Monday through Friday, and their meals are included, 3 meals a day. And around the campfire at night, which is where a lot of the good conversation is, we have popcorn and stuff. But we have some financing that came through this year. We never want anybody to not be able to come because their family can't afford it, especially in these times. So we've found some funding and some donors that will put in to help give scholarships and to help them out.
That is fantastic. We got to take our last break here, and we're going to come back and talk more about the first responder retreats and how you can get involved, get healed, do peer support, and have some good decompressing time out in nature. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Rise and vibe with your new elevated morning ritual. Meet Rise by Frequency. Frequency charged nutrition. Rise is formulated with a blend of 7 different organic mushrooms, B vitamins, amino acids, and green coffee bean extract. Rise supports brain health, performance, and focus while enhancing mood, mental clarity, and energy. Enjoy the delicious mango lemonade flavor while giving your mind the nutrients it needs. Get charged up with Rise. Fuel your body and mind today.
Hey, we talk about it every week, how you can rise and vibe with me and John. It's super easy to get your rise, and it does exactly what the commercial says. I take it every day for a pre-workout, and it gets me in the zone, and it gives me energy, but not like those bad energy drinks loaded with sugar. Gives you energy where it gets you going and then drops you down really low. So that's why you need another one, and then another one, and before you know it, you're drinking a whole case throughout the day. This has no sugar, so it is keto friendly. Rise and vibe with me and John. Visit abadgeofhonorhealth.com. That's abadgeofhonorhealth.com. Subscribe and save today. Now back to the show. Joe and Liz, this has been phenomenal. And I just for clarification, is there space available for any first responder that's listening to contact you to register?
Absolutely. And it's, like I said, it's dispatch, it's EMS, it's police, it's fire, it's emergency room nurses, anybody that has been out there. And it doesn't have to be with a diagnosis of PTSD. If you're overwhelmed, overstressed from your response calls, come up and spend some time with us. And we try to make sure that we don't have too many people there so that they can all connect. We don't want anybody to feel left out, but yes. So if they contact me on the website, they can contact the Gmail is on there, which is just respondersretreat at gmail.com or .com. And then my phone number is on there. My phone number is available for anybody to call me at any time.
Thank you.
Liz, with that, share a quick story before we run out. A most memorable moment where you had a first responder come in on a Monday and you saw a total transformation on a Friday. Real quick before we have to wrap it up.
So I had a young man come from a fireman come from Ohio and spent the week with us there. And at the end of the week, I asked him, "Can you send me something in a few days on how you felt about this, how it affected you and stuff?" He sent me back something. He said, I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, I came up and I was healed. He said, but I went home. I knew I had some things to work on. I had some conversations with my wife. We've made some changes and stuff. I've changed from one fire department that was toxic to another one. He said, we are doing great in our marriage. I'm doing great in my job. He says the time I spent there, the time walking in the woods, and he would go out in the woods and sit down by the trees and just meditate or just look around and stuff. He said that was all very healing to him, and he would advocate for anybody else to come back again.
That was fantastic. And that testimonial rings a bell. You can read more about it on the website with the testimonial page. Again, if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, it's firstrespondersretreat.org. The email is on the website. And again, Liz's phone number is there. So you can register and again,
we are on Facebook.
And you are on Facebook. What's your Facebook handle?
Facebook /Responders Retreat. I think it's as simple as that.
Well, I think we'll be tagging you in the tomorrow.
Sure.
For sure on Facebook. And so we're live on Facebook right now. Hey, Facebook family. Thank you all for your thumbs up and your likes and hearts. This is your chance, everybody watching and listening. If you're a first responder, a family member, you're a friend of a first responder, let them know about, there you go. Thank you, John. Let them know about the retreat. Take the time because you're worth it, and be with amazing people like Joe and Liz. I mean, gosh, Joe, that's just the one story. You and I have talked offline about other stories and what you've been through. And I don't know, I'm just going to throw it out there, but there is seriously something wrong with the admin in the state of Illinois. Because whether it's your fire department or the Chicago Police Department, it doesn't seem like much has changed. And my God, how long do folks have to suffer? Need some sweeping change for that state.
Yeah.
I think maybe the governor even needs to go. Maybe take care of that too. But all politics aside, something needs to change. Can't thank you enough for your coming on and just being open and vulnerable, and Liz for sticking by Joe and doing your homework and wanting to understand what was happening to your husband and what you all have created together. And when you go on the website, you will see the incredible board that you have put together of firefighters, retired and current. And I think your daughter also serves on the board. But again, I'm going to put the website up, firstrespondersretreat.org. .org. And when you visit, let's try and make that $1 a badge thing. Toss in some coins so we can continue to help them pay this forward.
Thank you.
So you'll see their logo on our website. Joe and Liz, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for what you do to help heal people across this nation. It is so. I would say, I mean, I am so grateful for you all. To be able to put together a program like this with the partners that have set forward to say we're there to help, and to do it in such a phenomenal and beautiful setting. Folks, visit them. Visit them.
Joe, send your address. Don't forget. I got something here. Just coming to you.
And can I say a very important thank you for you allowing us to do this? This
absolutely
what you two are doing and what the people working with you in your group. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Thank you.
It's togetherness. And this is what it's all about. It's getting the word out. It's just, it takes a village. It takes all of us to jump in and help each other.
Yes.
It absolutely does. So we will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Amazing. Again, check them out on Facebook. Check them out on the pictures. I mean, I just imagine what it's like in person. And Joe send me pictures of the birds and everything from there. It's just gorgeous. So
I'm beside myself with this story. It's just, but it doesn't surprise me, like you said, in Chicago, to not care about their first responders the way they just toss them away like they're expendable. And that is just so sad. It's heartbreaking.
It is very sad. And the fact that it hasn't changed in so long, that's why grassroots, we're going to change stuff, because it's clear that you can't count on the administration. And please, if you heard and are experiencing some of the things that Joe talked about, we are huge advocates. You deserve this help. Go outside your department. You don't have to be stuck there in EAP or any of that. You can use your insurance. Go outside. The insurance, they cannot report back. It is against the law. So be protected. And again, get the help that you need because it's vital. It's vital to save your life, and it'll better serve you and your family and the job that you're doing. You'll be better off for it. Absolutely.
And if couch therapy is not for you, if you some people go check out Responders Retreat. Go onto their website. Maybe that will open a door. It's a first step to the healing process.
It totally is. So with that, to all the first responders out there, thank you so much for what you do. You've got a group of prayer warriors that pray for you every day for you to come home safe. So we got your back right there. Thank you so much for protecting our communities and keeping us safe. For all of our veterans out there, thank you for fighting the good fight that allows John and I to do a show like this every single week. And for our active duty personnel that are spread across this globe, and they just continue, it's really getting interesting. We are praying for you as well, your safe return and your families. Thank you for keeping our shores safe. We have a lot going on. So just visit our website. It's super easy, abadgeofhonor.org. For all the events, we got an event coming up in March for Carry the Loads Give Back program, and for everything in between, abadgeofhonor.org. John, take us home.
Well, to all our Texas first responders out there, the next 2 days are going to be brutal. Please be safe. Please be careful. And thank you, because as we're sitting in our warm houses by our fireplaces, we know that you're out there keeping us safe. Peace.
See you next week, everybody. Take care.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.